This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is brought to you by The Information. Tired of reading news stories with catchy headlines but no substance? Check out The Information. The Information is a publication that breaks the most important news and trends about technology, and they publish hundreds of stories on Uber, Snap, Facebook, and more. For access to high-quality journalism, try The Information and go to theinformation.com/test. to sign up for The Information's free weekly newsletter and get 5 free days of afternoon tech briefing. Again, that's in theinformation.com/test.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, July 19th, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Boy, things sound so much better this week. Hey everybody, it's Norm, and I'm joined by Jeremy.
Hey, what's up?
And joined by Kishore.
Hey, what's up?
Kishore, who's blending with the wall.
Oh my goodness.
You're camouflage.
I'm not really here. I'm trying my own version of a green screen.
Ah, you are a projection, a force projection.
I'm just a floating head.
Just a floating head behind that microphone. We are... if you're watching the video, you'll notice that the set is kind of falling apart itself, faded away. We have part of the set is not even here because it is already on its way to San Diego Comic-Con, where I'll be heading in 2.5 hours from now. So this is not going to be a long podcast, but we wanted to get one in this week before I went down to San Diego and catch up on a bunch of things, including our top story this week. Top story this week. Acapella that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I said it the first time. I can say it again. So the top story is, of course, Comic-Con.
Are you hype about it this year?
It's not Prime Day?
No.
No.
Right.
No, that is pass. I bought nothing.
I brought an umbrella.
Really?
I'm trying to do a Ralph Wiggum voice.
Oh. I brought an umbrella. I saved all my money that I would have spent giving it to Jeff Bezos, richest man in history, to the fine folks, comic creators at Comic-Con, the Comic-Con.
You looking forward to it?
I am. I look forward to it every year. This is, I think, the 14th year I'll be going, I want to say.
Holy cow, man.
2005. 5, 6, 7,
That's a good percentage of your life.
17, 18. Yeah, the 14th year.
Jeez.
Yeah, at some point I will have gone to Comic-Con more than half of the years I've been alive. That's a scary thing to say. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. That's just like 4 years or so. I'm excited. It's madness. It's craziness. It is a gauntlet of pop culture, of marketing, of
Finding housing.
Yes. We totally messed up this year. This is the first year where we regressed in our housing search by missing the lottery completely on our side, and now we are staying at an Airbnb as a team, like maybe a mile away from the convention center, or a mile and a half.
Oh,
away.
no.
We're not going to be walking back and forth, but I am definitely excited. We are tonight going to the Leica Live event. So that's the very first thing we're doing at Comic-Con. Leica, which the animation studios last year brought some of their stop-motion puppets and sets to set up in the Gaslamp District as a pop-up store. People could walk in, check out some of their puppets, and buy some Leica gear. And now this year, they've brought 3 times as much stuff and the space 3 times as big. So
Wow.
I'm super excited to check that out.
Yeah, and they're notorious, as Will mentioned on Still Entitled, they're notoriously, pretty tight around what they're doing. So this is pretty interesting.
I don't think that was true.
No, I mean,
Leica
they
has
don't
brought-
do a lot of events.
If you go to Universal Studios, they have like a Leica area where they have sets from the past films. It's
I
not
thought that
a
was an
touring
exhibit.
It's
Yeah.
exhibit, yeah. So like you could see their stuff because when they're making these stop motion films, they have to make tons, like so many versions of their characters. I think Aardman. It's tougher to find Aardman stuff in person than it is to find Leica stuff in person. But anyway,
what was Leica's last film?
Leica's last one was Kubo and the Two Strings,
God,
directed
that
by
was so
their
good.
founder,
One of my
Travis Knight.
favorites.
And I think they have their next film, which I want to say is called Missing Link. Yeah, Missing Link is their next film, starring Hugh Jackman and Zoe Saldana, and I think they'll have some characters from that.
They're the guys that 3D print the facial animations.
Yeah, well, they're one of the first people that really embraced that. They didn't do it with Coraline, but I believe Paranorman was one of the first films where they really 3D print. You can, and they wore it on their sleeve. The finishes were that SLS sintered, powdery, print. You can tell the texture. You can almost see the print lines, but allowed them to create so many faces and so many parts of their faces, and just to do it more cost effectively than hand sculpting and casting everything.
What are a couple other things you're pretty hype about at Comic-Con?
Oh gosh, I think it's gonna be the year of Aquaman at Comic-Con. I think the big superhero things are gonna be Aquaman and Shazam to some extent. Maybe there are some posters.
I mean, Marvel and Disney are skipping the show for the most part. So
No, Marvel and Disney, don't they have a panel? Don't they have?
Marvel doesn't have a Hall H panel.
What? No Captain Marvel?
Nope.
Wow, 10 years. It's Marvel Studio 10S.
Yeah, and Disney doesn't have any Star Wars stuff except the Clone Wars thing.
Well, I guess it's DC's time to shine. I'm just always excited to see some. I think it's like every good convention. It's the people there, the comic creators, the people who work on collectibles, and to check out their new stuff.
I just saw on Instagram, Weta Workshop posted like a crate that just says Mother 18A on the side of it, and they said something special is going to be unveiled.
I know what that is.
Oh, you do?
I do know what that is. Weta Workshop. I think Weta is probably the company, the production collectibles company that really goes all out. Like Sideshow is all about collectibles, but Weta has collectibles and they have stuff they've worked on in films. So they've been releasing a series of short films, videos teasing their Comic-Con appearance on their YouTube channel. Like in past years, they've done not only brought the costumes from like Warcraft, and then they've built a full Smaug they put on top of their booth. They've had trolls from the Hobbit films. They've teased this is the year of the robot. So I'm expecting. I love robots. I love me a Weta robot. So I can't wait to see what they show.
You want to do just a quick recap of what Tested's doing?
Yeah,
there?
totally. So Adam, of course, it's a big event for Adam. He will be doing an incognito on Friday, and it's an undisclosed time. If you follow him on social media as well as Tested, and we have an Instagram now, Tested.com, we'll have hints and teasers, and you'll be able to follow along as that happens. Adam's doing a bunch of panels. He's doing a sci-fi great debate panel, I believe, on Thursday. He's doing, I think, Quizatron that night, maybe. I don't know if that's happening. There's no Woodstock this year, but of course we're doing a Totoro meetup.
Yeah, Totoro meetup Saturday morning.
Saturday, yeah.
In costume?
In costume.
Oh my goodness.
I will be wearing a Totoro.
You're going to be a Totoro?
I'm going to be a Totoro.
First time, right?
Yes, we one of the Totoros we met at Silicon Valley Comic-Con, Adam Quinones, has let us borrow his Totoro costume, and so I will be representing him there in his suit. I will be wearing him.
Was that the one that was more realistic, like with the animal-y eyes?
No,
Okay.
you mean the teeth?
Yeah, the teeth.
That was this year.
Okay.
This was last year's. This is one where it's actually quite heavy, but his Totoro, the claws are repurposed Wolverine claws.
Oh, right on.
And everything was just very industrious in the way he built it. So I'm looking forward to that. That will be Saturday morning. That won't be on the show floor, but we will be documenting that, and I think making some announcements as to where that may be.
And then Adam has a panel?
Adam does have a panel on Friday night, Friday early evening. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can say much about his panel.
But if you're a fan, you want to be there.
If you're not only a fan of Tested, if you're a fan of any of the things that we may have already talked about this podcast, you may want to be there. If you're interested in learning about what Adam's doing on Mythbusters Jr., I'm sure he'll be showing.
That's what I'm
something
psyched about. I haven't seen any of the
about that.
footage yet, so I'm super psyched to see that.
I don't know if he'll be showing footage. I don't know if I can
Or
say if he'll be
trailer
showing footage, but Adam usually shows something. at his panel, in addition to being a great interactive Q&A. And Tested will have something shown at the panel as well. So we had something we've been working on for the past 6 months that will be unveiled at the panel. And for Tested Premium members who won't be at Comic-Con, it will be on the site, dropped that evening, right after the panel.
Oh, that's good treatment.
Yeah.
Post many pictures of the embrace of Totoros.
Yes,
on Instagram.
An embrace of Totoros. You listened to the podcast yesterday. Anything else from Comic-Con we want to potentially talk about? Movie trailers are expected to drop. I think
the one thing I was going to say, there's supposedly a lot of VR activations. This year, like Jack Ryan, the Amazon show that's coming out.
Yeah.
Well, what's an activation?
Meaning, like, they have this like marketing thing, promotional area for the show, and you're supposed to be able to do like stunts like Jack Ryan, and some of them are in a headset.
It's a participatory marketing event.
Oh, somebody's gotten
that's a better description than activation.
No, well, that's the shorthand, the marketing shorthand. Oh, that word, I've heard that word used seriously in conference calls an exponential number of times in the past 3 months. There's actually a really cool story about the Dark Knight augmented reality game, the activation that happened in 2007.
This is where there was like paintings of like Joker graffiti all around the Gaslamp district.
Yeah, Thrillist wrote a long-form story recapping this, interviewing the people who set up that whole marketing exercise. And it was the first time at Comic-Con back in 2007 where they got people not only in the show but on the streets involved. They planned this elaborate, alternate reality game, not augmented reality game, alternate reality game, where people had phone numbers to call, websites to dial, things, skywriting to look at, and all to unveil bits and pieces about the film, to unlock it collectively, and also to feel like they were already immersed in that film world before and the film was released.
It's like Tron, right? When they had all the clues of where to find Flynn's arcade, and then you got there. And
yeah, they did that for Disney did that for Tron. They did Tron Legacy was a big one because it was a secret pop-up arcade where they showed off the motorbikes.
But you had to find it somewhere in San Diego.
Yes, and word got around. This did the same for Alice in
that's an
Wonderland.
activation.
That is on the high end of activations.
All right.
An activation could also be handing out flyers and getting people to sign a mailing list. I think that technically counts.
Runs the gamut.
Yeah, it does run the gamut.
I will
and the budgets.
Cosmos is supposed to be coming out with a trailer for season 2.
Oh, cool.
Neil Tyson will be there, so I'm excited to see that come out. And always like seeing some of the collectibles that come out.
Should I keep an eye out on some Thanos stuff for you?
Always.
Yeah?
I mean, I have a really big one that has been divisive in the household, so I'm not in the market, but I'm in the market.
Jeremy, anything that you'd like me to look out for you?
Posters. No. I'm always curious about the Super 7 shirts because they're exclusive to Comic-Con. They usually sell out a lot. So, but, if you see anything old video game related,
Old video game related.
1983 or prior.
Okay.
Sign me up.
I think Ready Player One is going to be there for their Blu-ray release, so they might have an activation as well. I'm going to stop saying that word because so much of this Comic-Con talk bleeds over into our next segment. Pop culture news, pop culture.
I think you should get Jeremy a Ready Player One mystery box.
You have one.
I bought one at San Diego
Silicon Valley
Comic-Con.
If there is a Ready Player One mystery box, I will get it for you, and you can have it on the podcast set and never open it.
It's so much more valuable that way.
Yeah, the mystery is what you're paying for. All right, pop culture. Let's talk about Netflix. Netflix had some big announcements. Actually, some disappointing news for Netflix. Netflix, they announced their subscriber growth this year, and they had like an additional 5 million subscribers or so, some crazy amount, which you think by any metric would be a huge success.
Yeah,
and yet it didn't reach what they expected based on how much money they had spent on content, and so their stock plummeted. And I think this is a kind of I don't know if it's a bad sign for Netflix, but it really shows how competitive the landscape is right now for these subscription services and how how their stronghold on the mind share of where you get original content may be waning. And, on the horizon, you have looming Disney, you have WB and their DC Comics stuff. So Netflix needs original IP. I think everyone at Netflix is assuming that a couple years from now, they can't bank on licensing and showing things from Disney or Warner Brothers as the main draw. So that's why they've been buying IP up. And they bought a comic book company last year. They bought Mark Millar's universe of comics, the Millerverse. Mark Millar is a Scottish comic book writer. We talked about his works before. His take on the Avengers, the Ultimates, is one of the foundations of the Avengers movie and how we see the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So very prolific, very out there. And Netflix has announced a bunch of new properties that they're developing, TV shows, I guess ongoing shows, and maybe standalone movies based on the Millerverse, one of which is about a reincarnated Jesus. One of which is about aging superheroes who have to...
I like that.
Yeah, have to reconcile with the new generation of superheroes. I think they're all going to be dark and edgy and House of Cards like.
Live action.
Netflix also, on the flip side, has been critically acclaimed for a lot of its content over the past year. One of the best things that they produced is Black Mirror, and the episode that resonated maybe most with this audience here, USS Callister, got a bunch of Emmy nominations.
That episode was wonderful, so I'm glad to see it get recognized with Emmy nominations. I mean, Black Mirror is one of those shows that's well heralded in the sci-fi fan world.
Yeah.
But I don't think has gotten a lot of attention beyond that bubble.
Really?
I don't think so.
I think you're in terms of it hasn't gone as mainstream as Stranger Things.
No, not nearly. And it's hard to expect something like that's, doesn't have characters to follow episode to episode to break through that way. But an Emmy nomination goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's an anthology show, and it's not like anthology shows can't resonate in the mainstream. American Horror Story has done really well as an anthology show, but that is still a serialized story season to season. I think Black Mirror was a big coup for Netflix because it was a British production that they then bought the rights and worked with the creators and paid for the development of shows exclusively to Netflix. And it's done really well compared to some of the original movies they've done, which have not done so well. In terms of other Netflix successes, Stranger Things, huge, and also will be at Comic-Con, I think. We also saw a brief teaser for Stranger Things.
I didn't watch it.
Well, it's hardly a trailer, or even really a teaser for anything.
It's not. It's like a fun exercise in in 80s filmmaking.
It's an 80s promo for a mall. Like, come to the mall, because these are all the fun stores over there. And they had all the appropriate malls for, 1985?
Yeah.
All the appropriate stores.
I can't wait as they go year to year, like as they integrate more of those movies that came out that year into the pop culture of the season.
You remember when VH1 used to I love the 80s and I love the 90s?
Yep.
Like, Stranger Things is I love the 80s, but told in narrative format. It's remember that, and then this thing that wasn't really a thing.
The trailer didn't go all the way, though. They didn't do it in standard def. It's a high def trailer.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
They were too frightened to go all the way.
It's 4:3 at least, right?
I think it is 4:3.
Okay, 4:3. We'll get that VHS filter in there.
I don't know.
I got to tell you, so I've been running this film series at the Alamo Draft House where we show like films we like, and they try to show them on film. So we showed Wrath of Khan on Monday night, and we show them on film. And somebody came and complained like, it was a little blurry. I'm like, yeah, they used film.
That's and the extra mile. That's expensive. You got to get a projectionist there. It was those reels.
I'll just say it was clearly a millennial that made that comment to me.
Let me push up my glasses and tell you how good film is. Well, another 80s beloved movie that is in the process of getting rebooted, is running into trouble. Bill and Ted 3, which we were all very excited to hear.
Now, come on, let's temper that a little bit. I was not very excited for this.
I didn't say very. We are all excited.
This is an interesting development, but I'm not at all surprised that this has run into financial difficulties.
So they may have put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, whatever the idiom is, because the financial problem is exactly what the reports are right now. They have secured the actors. Keanu Reeves has said he'd do it. Yeah. The other guy has said he'd do it, but Bill, yes,
Esquire,
yes, but. They don't have the money necessarily. So I hope the news is being reported so that they can show the excitement. And so let's show some excitement so that this can actually get made.
Hey, I actually watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure last night with my 11-year-old because he wanted to see a movie, and it was the one that was free on Prime. So we watched it, and I gotta tell you, it does not hold up very well.
Oh.
This is a movie that was good for its time. I remember watching it endlessly on VHS, but even my kid was like, eh.
He was not impressed by it.
Pretty stupid.
Sounds like a millennial to me.
Did he know what a phone booth was?
Yeah, right. I mean, George Carlin's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Timeless.
It's fun to see Keanu, given everything that's happened since that movie. And he's good at it. He's legitimately good. He's a sweet character.
You make a good point. It is. I don't think your son has seen The Matrix yet.
No.
So you're priming him for the career of Keanu.
Exactly.
By Point Break might be next.
Point Break is next.
Point Break, and then The Matrix.
Perfect. No. Then you got to take a right turn and do Much Ado About Nothing. Where they're like, what is happening? Why is he in a Shakespeare movie?
Or the Dracula movie.
Oh,
yes.
no.
Right?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
There's that Al Pacino devil one, too. That's real weird.
You want to get to a point where your son can, on his own accord, ask the question, why does that guy never age?
Yeah,
why does he always look the same?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. He's calling out the Wilhelm scream in movies now. So, he might actually come up with that.
Yeah. I think.
I have a quick recommendation. I've been watching a lot of these big action, big series kind of stuff, like Star Trek Discovery, all of those stuff. I needed a break. I subscribed for 1 month to Acorn TV, which is all British shows and real under the radar stuff. And I've mentioned it before. The Detectorists had series 3 about a series of guys in metal detectors. There's another show called Trivia about a team that's playing pub trivia every week. It was real easy watching, nice, delightful, not high stakes. Loved it. I love both of those shows.
Yeah.
Right on.
I give Ready Player One a lot of flack for the characters being too in love with the past and not looking toward the future. I think it's a criticism of the characters in the book and also the film, but I see the appeal of the idea of a British only, of an era enclosed, channel where I've always wanted a 90s subscription service where I can pay and tune in, and I would get only 90s shows and 90s commercials and have that window back into another time.
They certainly have that on Sirius XM.
Really?
Yeah, they have the 90s station.
But they don't play the commercials from.
No,
I want all inclusive,
sometimes
all immersive.
The little interstitials. Sometimes they do that. They're pop in your 6 CDs into your 6 CD changer.
Yeah.
Have you bought your pair of Zubaz this week? You remember Zubaz? No.
And memory is always through a lens. So whether it's through Sirius or whether whenever you try to recreate an era, you're recreating through how you remember it. So I always, that is an interesting exercise.
Yes.
And I think people would be into it, but because we lived through it. And maybe that's the criticism I have of Ready Player One. The characters at 2045 never lived through the 80s. So I never understood why they loved that era.
Because they want that money. They get $500 billion if they solve the Easter egg.
Only the people who were inauthentic. Only the Nolan Sorrentos. Right.
Let's not pull the thread of our criticisms of Ready Player One. That's a longer discussion.
Yeah, the one we don't have time for in this podcast. All right, last bits of pop culture news. We're going to go into speculation territory here. Mark Hamill posted a photo of himself recently, and notable difference between him and how he appeared in The Last Jedi. This Mark Hamill, completely clean-shaven.
What does that mean, Norman?
Well, it tells me that CG technology for adding beards is as good as Warner Brothers had claimed it was with the Superman mustache fiasco. Or Mark Hamill's done filming for Star Wars Episode 9. That could be it. Mm-hmm. It could also mean that...
or it could mean he shaved.
Maybe he had a job interview.
Which would mean he's done with episode 9, or how he appears in episode 9 may be clean shaven. Pure speculation,
Right?
At this point.
Because the ghosts, they don't have to appear like they were when they died.
Yeah,
right?
They can appear exactly
however they want.
However they want.
I would think.
What is your self-actualization as a force ghost?
Exactly.
Yeah, with Vader, you were first one actor, and then you became Hayden Christensen.
That was the worst. Oh my god!
I don't think they did it for Ewan McGregor. Right?
Bring back Yup.
No, I think they learned their lesson.
Yeah, it's still. I don't think they wanted to scrub Sir Alec Guinness for Ewan McGregor from that.
Do you guys grow up going to Blockbuster?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of '80s, going back. This is. What a fun pop-up this would be at Comic-Con. Speaking of
that's a good idea.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a VHS store.
Oh wow!
A Stranger Thing. Netflix. There's still time. Comic-Con is open tonight, but all you gotta do is rent a space and make it a Blockbuster VHS store set in the '80s that the kids they could go to as Comic-Con attendees and find the hidden VHS.
And they'll be sued by the last remaining Blockbuster store.
Well, I don't think that last remaining Blockbuster store even has suing rights.
You
They barely have licensing rights.
Really?
So there were 3 remaining Blockbuster stores in the United States. And if you watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, he did a big segment on this a while ago. And 2 of them are in places where it makes perfect sense for there to still be a video store. Remote places, Alaska, where bandwidth may not be widespread, high speed bandwidth, and broadband. And VHS and DVDs still play a part in people's entertainment. Those Blockbuster stores are licensees. They're franchises.
Mm-hmm.
They can use the name Blockbuster, but they have no ties to the bankrupt company.
Who's the franchisor?
Well, it was a company that went bankrupt. And I guess when they went bankrupt, these franchisees could still technically legally in their license use the Blockbuster name. They're not sending these VHSs back to warehouses. Like, there is no home base.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the 2 in Alaska have gone under.
Oh no.
And what we have
That means
left,
there's one left?
there is 1 remaining Blockbuster
Right here in
left.
the good old Continental.
Yeah.
Where?
Where's that?
I believe it's in is it Oregon?
Yeah, that sounds right.
We all have to go.
Bend, Oregon. What a road trip.
It's not too far. I think there's a great arcade there. Actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
I heard there's a great miniature train town there
Oh yeah.
in Bend, Oregon.
So many reasons to go to Bend, Oregon.
And close to there is
Crater
the
Lake?
Stanley Hotel.
Yes.
That
What's that?
The shining exterior of.
Are you serious?
Not the exterior. Was it the exterior? No. It's not where they filmed it. It's connected. I got this wrong on Still Untitled this week, but it's connected to The Shining. It's one of the ones that it was used in either used in production or influenced the production. The Stanley Hotel, close to Bend, Oregon.
Yeah, the Vector Volcano Classic Arcade in Bend, Oregon.
It is the exterior. It's the
It's the
Timberline
exterior.
Lodge.
Timberline Lodge. That's what it is. Stanley Hotel is the other one. Yeah, Timberline Lodge. Yeah. And I think that is it. We're going to end on that sad note. We're going to end on an optimistic note for Bend, Oregon.
We can still rent videos here in San Francisco. There's a spot in Noe Valley that rents videos. Of course, it's not Blockbuster.
Does
What?
Lay Video in San Francisco still
No.
rent
Well,
videos?
it kind of no.
I'm surprised you still can do it.
All right. Well, our enthusiasm is grown for Bend, Oregon. If we have any listeners in that area, give us more reasons to visit Bend and Middle Oregon, and maybe we'll do a road trip someday. Technology news. I got there eventually. We do have a bunch of tech news I want to run through. Hey, more in speculation territory. We know Apple's probably going to release new iPhones at the end of this year. Yeah, we think so. We think in like it's a couple months. Samsung, probably new phones, new Galaxy phones as well. Wall Street Journal has an article saying that Samsung's new phones, and this has been telegraphed, I think, a while from their tech demos at CES, is going to have a bendable, foldable screen.
A flip phone?
A notebook-like open screen.
Are we still talking about the 90s again?
Yeah.
This is kind of like the...
Remember the Matrix phone? Like everyone wanted that one.
Oh, God, the Nokia, yeah. Yes, it only went one direction though. You had to collapse it yourself. But God, what a great, one of the best marketing. The follow-up they had in The Matrix Reloaded, that Nokia phone was terrible. It just looked over-designed. A little Mobius, but still over-designed. Samsung is, Wall Street Journal thinks is going to release, not this year, but next year, has plans to launch a foldable screen phone so that its form factor is smaller, but when you open it, the screen is big.
So it fits in your pocket, and yet it's still big.
Yeah, like 7 inches is what they think is the size of the prototype, and when you fold it, it looks like a smaller phone. But when you open it up, you have a 7-inch screen, like almost a tablet-sized screen.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
Now, if you can't see that bend at all, right, when you open it up and there's no indication of the seam,
yeah,
you think it's a good idea?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah, people are using their phones for as much as they can these days. So if they can use it for even more, they'd probably like that.
Do you think it's a good idea if it had abilities to, if the software recognized the angle of the hinge and you could use it with the bend visible? Would that have any benefit?
What are you suggesting?
Like then there's a logical way to split the screen in two to read it in like a book
so like
mode.
If you had two, you could play Battleship.
Oh yeah, ooh, yeah. I like the way Battleship's a good way to go. Sure, yeah. Or you can read it, open it like a book, and you can have a left page and a right page.
What you need? You don't need it. Like the Kindle works pretty well. Like you don't need a.
But
bend.
the Kindle is one page.
Right.
Then now you can have it like a small two-sided book, and you can flip, and you can have the animation flip from right side to left side.
Why stop at 2 screens? Why don't you add a third so you can physically turn it?
This is the Onion parody. The triptych phone opens up in the middle, and the altar of phones. I think this is a case of Samsung having it's curved TVs all over again. Just because they can do it doesn't mean they should do it. And I think they have curve bendable screen, foldable screen technology, and they want to find a place for it in the market. And I don't think it's going to be widely adopted, and I don't think it's something Apple would ever do.
Yeah. You know where it's going, though, is laptops. Like, this is all going to be a screen.
Oh, the whole bottom?
Touchscreen, keyboard.
Well, that would be, I mean, if they can, and that's a reasonable choice, because if the biggest one they can make is 7 inches right now, then the only way they're going to get bigger is by improving their manufacturing. And that means going through a generation of putting it on phones first, then tablets, and then laptops.
At a laptop form factor, you don't even need that center part to be screen. It could be 2 screens.
Yeah.
But
usually no bezel.
I bet that's coming.
Yeah. We talked about Netflix potentially having more competitors and it being a crowded market. The market may even be more crowded in the near future, with a report from the information that Walmart plans to launch their own Netflix and Amazon Prime Video competitor and undercut them in pricing, as Walmart does.
What are you talking about?
I don't think they're creating original content.
Yeah, so they just license movies?
I think they're just going to go for the license, and I think they want people to subscribe at a better price.
It's an online service?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
See, I don't know how many people subscribe to these services anymore for the movies in particular.
I think plenty of people
watch movies, but I don't know if that's why they subscribe to them.
Right. The kids stuff is huge. As a parent, just having the whole kids mode and all the movies that you get in there and all the TV shows, that's just huge. It's like having a PBS.
Yeah, we'll see what exclusive deals they'll have. Maybe they'll make a TV show based on that Walmart mascot, the bouncing ball. Drops the prices.
Not familiar with it.
Is that a Walmart thing?
Yeah, he's talking about rolling back.
Yeah. Apple last week announced new MacBook Pros. Speaking of new laptops.
Oh, yeah. Did they fix the keyboard?
They updated. Well, I haven't used it yet. The reports are the keyboard is supposed to be quieter. I think the iFixit teardown showed that there is a new membrane in the keys that helps make them quieter. I don't know if it means fixed, but this does have the latest generation of Intel processors, and these are the MacBook Pros, the 13-inch and the 15-inch. You still got that touch bar. Touch bar still there.
Yeah, I used that once.
And used it once. And the screens also no increase in resolution, but they are true tone displays, much like in the iPad Pros.
Yeah, new iPads.
Do you think there's any value in increased resolution at this point?
On the MacBook Pros? No.
I think having souped up processor power and especially GPU power has a lot of value.
The True Tone makes a difference. Like it's sort of like an HDR effect.
Yeah.
There's a whole new Mac campaign right now. You've seen billboards all around the city of like behind the Mac, right?
Yeah.
Like
My wife was actually saying, what does that mean?
it was weird. I was thinking about it. It shouldn't be behind every Mac. Is behind every Mac is a creator.
Right.
Is
What's
a
important
musician.
is who's behind the Mac.
Right.
Who's using it, what you're doing with it.
But behind the Mac, behind the Mac,
right. It's weird.
is their tagline, and it's visuals of people, different people using their laptops because they want to show that. And I think in their media event, they just had people, brought out people to talk about how they use their MacBooks in their professional lives. The Intel processors are interesting for these because they're the first ones that go beyond quad-core. 6-core mobile processors, Core i7, Core i9 processors. And, DDR4 has been around, but, 32 gigs of DDR4 and discrete Radeon Pro graphics, up to 4 terabytes of solid state on the high-end 15-inch model.
Exactly.
We're talking about, like, $3,000 laptops.
Yeah.
Starting at $2,300 and going up to $3,000 and $4,000. So these are full desktop replacements. On the 13-inch side, you only stick with quad-core. But if you're a video editor and you only have one computer, those extra 2 cores and that RAM and that storage mean a lot to you. So, video production is an expensive business to be in.
Is Premiere on the Mac?
Yeah.
It is. And would it take advantage of 6 cores?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In the rendering. The keyboard is still the butterfly design, 3rd generation, they say. And the touch bar still has that dedicated T2 chip. Absent from these MacBook Pros, Face ID. No Face ID.
That's
weird.
interesting.
That's weird because you would think the cost of like the IR sensors would have come
blaster
way down
and
just
the
because of
dedicated
the iPhone, and
So-
it would be cheap to put into the MacBook,
Yeah.
even if they weren't going to activate it.
There's one argument that to do Face ID, you have to change like the bezel. There's still a bezel, but it's relatively thin. But to do Face ID, you might have to do like a notch because the chip that's on the top of the iPhone takes some space, and you'd have to fit that in.
But that
the
notch
LCD.
is already as big as the bezel on the.
Right, but the bezel right now on the MacBook Pros is just screen. There's no electronics behind it. Right. On the phone, you have all.
Wait,
the
I thought
electronics.
there's the webcam there though.
There's a webcam that's a really small board.
Yeah.
So you have to expand that board essentially. So you have to. There has to be a little bit more of a physical redesign.
I am surprised just because they tend to eventually have all of their products sort of converge.
I think eventually is the key here. The other argument is that they're spacing it out and they see the value in Face ID and they see it as something they can sell and make a selling point on these laptops and maybe on the iMacs, and they'll do it not this year but next year. So
Okay.
this year is about processor speed. Maybe next year will be about Face ID, and maybe another year of people using Face ID on their phones can build up an infrastructure where Face ID is more powerful and more useful on things like laptops, where you can do application sign in and more than just web browser passwords and more than just Apple Pay. But yeah, I'm just a little bit surprised. Along with the announcement of their MacBook Pros, they also announced a collaboration with Blackmagic, and this is for a eGPU enclosure. This fits a new Radeon Pro graphics card, and it works with MacBook Pros over your Thunderbolt 3. It has USB ports and HDMI ports, so it works as a docking station essentially. The enclosure, which I think, and I haven't confirmed this, it includes the graphics card, is $700. Which, if that lets you turn a last generation MacBook Pro into something that can actually be capable as a docking station, that's actually a really compelling offer.
I'm somebody that lives on the go, but I like to mine crypto at home still.
There you go. You can earn that $700 back in anywhere between 3 months and 5 years, depending on what the price is at that point. All right, moving on. Microsoft, which last week we talked about, announced the Surface Go laptop, and which I haven't seen yet, but I'm curious if anyone's picking that up. They announced a new app that they think will be useful across multiple platforms. It's a whiteboarding app. Is there a good whiteboarding app right now?
What do you mean
iOS?
that multiple people like collaborative can join in and draw on a chalkboard
or on their tablets, on their phones?
Yeah, I get it.
A virtual chalkboard.
Yeah, I mean, there's the drawing app in Google Docs. I'm not sure how useful that would be.
No. I use like the Notepad app in on my phone when I need to draw something, and it's not great at all. I'm interested in like collaborative tools. Microsoft has Teams, which is their Slack's competitor, but Slack doesn't have, because it's made for devices mostly that don't have touchscreens. I would love to see a good collaborative drawing and productivity app. And Microsoft right now it's on the Windows Store, but they're releasing an iOS version and Android version.
It is ESRB rated.
What?
Yeah, I think E for everyone.
I think that's just because in the Microsoft Store.
They just have to have an ESRB rating?
I think so.
Okay.
It's not an entertainment product.
I mean, the hard part about the whiteboard app to me is it needs to be cross-device, cross-platform.
Yeah.
And this is going to still be in a Windows ecosystem because it's Microsoft.
No. It's going to have an iOS version.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Cross compatible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll all be able to draw together.
Yep.
This will be the greatest.
Drawing with friends, productivity, whiteboarding with friends. Is it 8-bit Modo? What's the 8-bit dough?
8-bit dough.
8-bit dough. 8-bit dough.
8-bit do?
I never know how to pronounce it.
Someone tell us.
Yeah. 8-bit dough. 8-bit do is a company that has for years made really great wireless game pads that are
very much the same form factor as original game pads.
I don't think they're licensed at all, but they're influenced by the form factor of your classic console game pads.
Pretty much. I think they've only done the original Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super NES.
Have they not done a big Sega System one?
I don't think so.
So their Bluetooth controllers, they also have dongles that work with consoles. So you can plug into your old SNES, you plug into... so you can use a wireless controller.
Or the new one.
Or the new, yeah. Well, they just announced a kit. It's their first kit that lets you take an actual old SNES controller.
From your attic?
Yes. Take it apart, remove the board, and put in their board, which has then a Bluetooth transmitter. And they did a clever thing. The port for charging it is and also where the Bluetooth, and you have an LED indicator, is where the cable would have been, the hole where the cable is. And they have an adapter from there that you plug in, I guess it's a 3.5 millimeter jack style adapter from there to a USB charging cable.
It's got a built-in battery. I'm curious how long the battery will last before it needs to be recharged. It's a neat idea.
I've already pre-ordered one. It's $20, which people point out for $24 you can just buy a Bluetooth gamepad that looks like the SNES controller.
Yeah.
But some people really like the button feel of the old SNES, and where the sensors are underneath the buttons, I think are important because for your D-pad sensitivity and your diagonal pressing. So that's what we'll be testing for, how well it works. I just love that SNES controller.
The installation looks dead simple. It's really cool.
Super simple assembly. Let's go run through the other bits of technologies real quick. Roku announced some wireless speakers, except these only work with the Roku TVs and Roku systems.
Not even with the OTTs.
I think it works with their box, but not with. Actually, it might just with their TVs. Just with their TVs. Interesting.
That's such a niche thing, and I would just rather buy a soundbar.
I mean, they're Bluetooth also, but like they are made to pair specifically, and I think this is them moving into the soundbar space. A while ago, we talked about a camera company still kind of like in the early stages called Light. Had a really interesting concept where they put a bunch of camera sensors.
Oh, this is the most horrifying looking camera
It looks like an alien face, right?
Yeah, it's gonna get you.
It's a tablet. I saw this at the beta store. It's I would say more tablet size than pocket size, more purse size, handbag size. But there are 16 cameras on this with varying lenses and varying sensor sizes and focal lengths that then let you, using computational photography, combine the image for much better zooms or better dynamic range. They just got a bunch of funding, $121 million investment from SoftBank Vision's fund to develop this kind of hybrid computer vision camera system for cars and for other robots.
Interesting. So they have multiple camera types in the car.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Did you actually see the camera in action?
Yeah, we all take pictures with it, and the processing. I mean, you're taking a picture, and then you have to wait for the processing.
Okay,
which is weird.
Is it worth it? I mean, I don't mind waiting if it's a cool thing.
I read a review that said it was not.
Okay.
Yeah, the trade-off. It's a good idea, but it's solved by just having a slightly bigger camera. Like the benefits right now are that it's a little more flat. You know, it's like an inch thick, but that's not. It's still big. It's not small yet. Speaking of interesting ideas, remember at CES, Kodak announced a terrible Kodak branded mining device called the Kodak Cache Miner with a K. Well, that's not going anywhere.
Is it crappy with a K?
It's yeah. So, and the way they sold it was going to be a leasing system, right? You wouldn't be able to buy it, and you generate the value over time from you leasing it from them or something. The economics of it was that the price of Bitcoin would have to hover at $28,000 to $30,000 for this to work. For you have a value return in Bitcoin. Jeremy, what was the highest price for Bitcoin?
It was crested at 20,000. Now it's down to 7,000.
So, not going to work, and the SEC has halted this whole scheme. So, if anyone was hoping to buy a Kodak branded Bitcoin miner, you're out of luck.
All you people.
Let's get on to the fun stuff. Nintendo Labo ran a contest for Labo Creations.
This is cool.
And they showed some of the results, one of which, super cool, a Labo programmed cardboard accordion.
Yeah, they're all cool. And they're all made with the software in the Labo that comes with it. It's not like they hacked the Switch to make it do more.
Right.
It's all what you could do with it.
And most of them use the Joy-Cons as like the controllers too, like the buttons and whatnot.
Well, the accordion, it used the controllers for the accelerometer, so that the more you tilted it, it made a louder sound. So as you moved the accordion in and out, it would essentially look like
it's abstracting the movements as opposed to being a one-to-one.
And they called it solar powered because the buttons that you create the notes with, you have to open those up to the sun. And then as you block the sun, the camera on the other joypad, or whatever you call it, Joy-Con, would see that hole blocked, and that would cause the note to play.
Solar activated.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It was really cool.
That's neat. I love this.
I really like the analog clock.
Yeah.
Do you?
It's built into the keyboard, the piano?
I am fascinated right now. I just finished building a Nixie clock, and so I'm just sort of fascinated with clocks. And so the idea of building an analog clock with all this technology was kind of a neat little throwback.
I like the tea game.
Oh, the little pour the tea kettle into the cup?
It reminds me of Tapper. I don't know if you remember that old arcade game where you have to serve the drinks as fast as you can to the customers that request them. But what he did, and a lot of people did, is they create little cutouts for the screen, because I guess you can't make intricate graphics with the Labo software, but you can make blocks that fill up. So if you make a stencil that goes on top of the screen in the shape of the object that you want, you can make it look like there's an actual graphic on the screen. And I'm saying he, I think is a he. He did a great job with it.
Our next story is about a piece of software that was released years ago, a video game. Do you remember Gearboxes' Alien Colonial Marines game?
No.
It was like a shooter, based on aliens, and you were the Colonial Marines, and you were fighting xenomorphs.
Gearbox, they did like opposing force and stuff, right?
What? Gearbox did Borderlands.
Oh, did they do? Well, that would have been after. But all right, yeah.
So the game was not well reviewed, and one of the big problems with the game was, and this was in 2013, this is 5 years ago. One of the big problems was the xenomorphs were terrible. Apparently, the AI for the xenomorphs were erratic, and they ran away, and they weren't scary, and they never really attacked you.
AI is hard.
Yeah, AI is difficult. So in on a forum, I think ModDB forum, there was a post from a user who looked into the game code, and found an INI file, and said he spotted a typo
in the ini file.
Yeah,
okay.
In the ini file.
All right,
and the file. I'll read the line of code. It's class remapping.
Yeah.
Pecan game. Pecan sequence act. Attach Xeno to tether. Pecan game. Pecan sequence act. Attach pawn to tether. But the letter tether did not had an extra A in it.
Oh, it's like Trump spelled it.
Teather. So there are two tethers in that line, but one of them had an extra A.
So it didn't do that second action.
Didn't do whatever the whole line. So he removed that, saved the INI file, and it fixed the AI.
Shut up.
It made the xenomorphs aggressive, and it made it more fun to play.
He didn't have to like decompile any source code.
It's literally just a config file.
That's hilarious.
An initialization file. And PC Gamer has video of before and after, and the xenomorphs are noticeably more aggressive, and they say more fun.
That's hilarious.
Why wouldn't the company know that?
Yeah. Or patch it 5 years ago.
Oh, my God.
So listeners, if you want to just randomly edit your config files on games, let us know how it changes them.
Yeah. Our next story is about another type of fix, but this is developers being actually proactive about something. What's going on here?
Love it. So Rainbow Six Siege, it's been out for a while now. It's
very popular.
Been out for a couple of years, I guess. And they just recently announced that they would begin banning people using offensive language in chat, and you would be banned immediately.
I love how this is the iteration, because for a long time games have been banning people with terrible usernames.
Yeah.
And that hasn't seemingly abated, quite frankly. So taking the next step to even be more aggressive about this, I think is the right way to go.
Absolutely. And it's a hard decision because they're the people, they're your customers. And I can understand that the bean counters want to let them all in, but it ruins the game for most people.
Now, is this a straight ban, or is this a ghost mute?
The first time that you use offensive language, or you insult somebody using language you're not allowed to use, you're banned for, I think it's a half an hour.
Okay.
You do it again, 2 hours.
Whoa.
You do it again, I think you're out. That's
so this
it.
isn't even like
3 strikes and you're out forever.
A mute. It's not even like.
Oh no, you can't log in.
Oh, wow.
And everybody playing the game, which I think is hundreds of thousands of people, everyone at that moment gets a notification. Norman Chan was just banned for using offensive language.
I won't use offensive
No, of course
language.
you wouldn't, but you will see that.
That's an extra degree of public shaming.
What I'm actually mildly interested in is how they're using speech recognition
They're
or
not.
whatever.
No,
It's
it's
typing.
just chat.
Just chat.
Oh,
So-
just in chat. It's not voice chat.
That's the next step, right? Of course, then you run into false positives. And
Yeah, exactly.
it's tricky, but I look forward to that even more.
Wow.
Because I have stopped playing several games because it's just too much. I just can't. I don't.
Yeah.
It just ruins it.
You know, I saw a tweet of someone who said they used it in psychological warfare.
How so?
Someone was being a jerk, and then he got them to type something offensive,
Oh,
and they got banned.
like how to access the menu? It's Alt F4.
No. But they did it, and they provoked the provoker
Gotcha.
and egged them on.
Yeah.
And then it's still on the provoker's fault.
Of course, you
that
can.
no one should be using that.
So it's a tricky thing. You know that there's a way to get around it. If you do an
space?
exclamation mark instead of a I, and then you wonder, like it's a gamble. Are you going to try it because you might get kicked? You might be, because maybe the coders, the guys behind the game, they've thought of all that.
I think over time that's going to solve itself. They're going to have the data on that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I love this. I think every game company should do this.
Yeah. Last few stories. Let's talk about YouTube. This came out last week. A little bit concerning. Some YouTube creators talked about how they got their accounts suspended or videos taken down because they were promoting their Twitch streams in their YouTube accounts.
And YouTube said that they were banning or putting pause on these accounts because these videos violated their terms of service. And initially, people were very angry because they're like, well, I'm just promoting other content I'm making. But then when you look at these videos, they're really not content videos. That's why YouTube banned them. They're just literally like a static image that plays for 20 seconds that says, come join my Twitch stream at whatever time. And so YouTube considers that spam because there's no content in there.
Right.
And so I understand why people are upset about this. I actually fall kind of on the side of like, that is spam. Like there's probably a way to do that is some notification that isn't just putting up a 20-second video that's going to hit all of your subscribers.
Well, here's the question: isn't that a problem that the subscribers solve, like
by not watching it,
or downvoting it? Right? Isn't this a
that's
user-corrected problem? Like where if that hurts the value that the subscriber sees in the channel because it's being spammy about a certain other channel, like that should self-correct. Whereas if this is actually something those subscribers want, because they want to not only watch on YouTube, they want to know about the Twitch streams, then you should let the creators promote, because it actually helps them have a deeper connection with their subscribers, as opposed to find out about my Twitch streams on Twitter. Then I'll be off YouTube and be on Twitter checking that.
I'm surprised YouTube cares, because I don't imagine they're too intimidated by Twitch stealing their revenue.
Right.
Any more than Slack would be intimidated by Discord. It's like they're just a different scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that does it for technology news this week. We are running out of time. We have like another 10 minutes left. Let's jump into some science. Moment of science. Come on, Kishore. I was waiting for you to
Yeah, I did it last week. I'm not on board with this whole singing along part that's going on.
Okay, go ahead.
It's listener question time. I think we're going to do this regularly per Jeremy's suggestion. So we got a couple. Candace asks, why did camels become whales?
News to me.
Camels did not become whales. They have a common ancestor called protochetes that lived both on water and land. And these, what's interesting about them is that these protochetes, they initially uncovered a 45 million year old fossil of this common ancestor and analyzed what their hearing looked like, what their ear canal looked like. And it had much more in common with camels than they did with whales. So they do have a common ancestor, but whales have developed an incredible sense of hearing for ultrasonic detection underneath the water. So what's strange is that you don't consider whales and camels related, but they do have a common ancestor. Evolution is weird. I have another question about how much ATP is in our body. This is sort of our engine of fuel that's in our mitochondria. ATP basically has phosphorus-oxygen bonds, and when they get broken apart, that generates energy. In our body at any time, there's about 250 grams of this stuff. But in total, because ATP is constantly being broken and recycled into itself, we use around like 70 to 75 kilograms of the stuff every day. What's interesting about ATP, it's not the most efficient form of that phosphorus-oxygen bond, but it has a low enough activation energy for us to break it and a high enough return on the energy that comes out of breaking that bond. All right. KS asks a question about blazars. You guys hear about blazars?
No, what
They're
are blazars?
in the news. Blazars are a type of galaxy that have a supermassive black hole at the center of it. And almost every galaxy we've ever seen actually has a black hole at the center of the galaxy. But these galaxies are different because the material that's starting to spin and enter the center of the galaxy, it's going at such a rate, it's at such an acceleration as it's spinning into the black hole, that matter, that dust, that gas starts to generate immense amounts of heat. And that heat gives off electromagnetic radiation.
Hawking radiation.
No, that's from the black hole itself. This is different. This is like the actual material coming in is just basically lighting up on fire in a way.
Wow.
And as it sends out that electromagnetic radiation, that generates basically a jet of particles that shoot out along the axis of the spin. So that's why you see these jets of particles coming out, perpendicular to the black hole itself. What's interesting is there's a detector in Antarctica called Ice Cube, literally an ice cube, a clear block of ice underneath the ice shelf in Antarctica that was trying to detect cosmic rays and all these particles that come with it. And they found one of the sources of those cosmic rays, which carry more energy in it than they should based off of a lot of our models. One of the sources were these blazar galaxies, just shooting off particles because there's so much heat generated by that material spinning into that black hole. that black hole at the center of those blazars are like 1 billion times the mass of our sun. So just massive on a scale we can barely imagine.
Okay. That's all? You're saving the rest?
No, we got more.
Okay.
I got 2 more. I was just like
letting that one sit.
I wanted to let that one sit for a second.
Blaze it for a second.
Jedi Jeremy, a loyal listener, asked about space contracting theory because the universe is expanding. That was established about 20 years ago. There's a team of scientists that saw the universe is actually accelerating away from itself, and that shows that the way the universe is going to die is via heat death. Everything is just going to keep accelerating apart until all of the heat in the universe dissipates and just turns into cold black nothingness. That was uplifting. But the theory before that is that after the Big Bang, everything was going to go out, and that gravity was going to overcome all of that material being shot out and slowly start to contract everything back. Mm-hmm. And one of the elements of this is that it would not just come back into one neat little center at first. It would clump into these areas. And one of Jeremy's questions, why would it clump? And the key part of why it clumps is because entropy is still increasing. There's this idea that chaos and disorder in the universe is always rising. And there's lots of mathematical equations that prove that out. But given that entropy is always increasing, one of the consequences of that is that black holes are going to cluster in different parts of the universe as contracting would happen. And all this material would get sucked up into these pockets of black holes, which then would finally coalesce down into a single point again. That's why we get that clumping. But it doesn't matter because this theory is wrong. There's a lot more math there. Jeremy mentioned, Jedi Jeremy mentioned metric tensors, which is the math that underpins general relativity. We'll have a more technical discussion on Twitter. And finally, Geek Tweet sent out a note that read like this, and I think this is interesting.
Okay.
Why is it that science is often so hesitant to put time into researching phenomena we don't understand? Like the University of Freiburg has a department that looks into paranormal phenomenon. And Jeremy responded saying, well, if we had any hint of evidence, don't you think scientists would look into it? Mm-hmm. So I have a really different perspective on this. It's a little soapboxy. I think scientists are elite, and they study, and they're at blame for that sense of elitism that they've created. And they study the things that they think science should study. And I think for the most part, that's good. They're following the science. But I don't think science is as accountable to society's interests as it could be or should be in a lot of ways. So I think there's a point underlying this, that the science that happens in these universities is either not well connected to society's interests or at least not well communicated why this is important to look into. And that disconnect is a real source of problems in this world. So I think the heart of this is right. Now, whether paranormal phenomena should be researched or not, I think that's a slightly separate question. We don't really have any hints from a science perspective that there's anything there to study. But I think it points at a larger issue. Science should be much more reflective of what society cares about than it tends to be. So right. I agree with you. That does it for listener questions. I will apologies for the icy Slurpee off. We just didn't have time for it this week.
Oh, there will be time.
There will be.
We're going to do that.
We had some interesting revelations on Twitter regarding that. Apparently, the icy and the Slurpee may indeed be the same thing.
They have similar genes.
They should. Did the ice become the Slurpee, or did they just have a shared common ancestor?
Just be ready for next week. I have a plan. There's some dry ice involved. I've mapped out locations.
Which one's the camel? Which one's the whale?
There's going to be 3 kinds. So
we have 1 minute. Should we make it VR?
Let's do it.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
All right, we'll do it longer than a minute because we skipped VR Minute from the past 2 weeks. Let's actually talk news first. Road to VR is reporting that both Oculus and other companies, NVIDIA, AMD, and Valve, have
HTC.
And HTC have agreed to a next generation open industry standard for the plug for VR headsets.
Good on them. Because
Yeah.
right now we have at least 2, right? And in some cases 3. There's the power, and there's USB, and there's the video signal.
And then on the HTC side, they have a proprietary connection that plugs into the breakout box.
So now it's all going to be USB-C.
Yes, and they have a new consortium. I guess these consortiums pop up with these necessities called Virtual Link, and they think it will be USB-C to condense, like you said, power, video, and data. What does this telegraph? I mean, this could mean nothing.
Well, Telegraph said the wireless VR future is still distant in the future. That we're still going to have wires for a little bit longer, but it's going to be a lot easier to juggle.
I mean, I think the implication and our understanding is the expectation that the next Rift will be wired.
Oh, yeah. But I think they've said as much that as they possibly can.
Exactly.
Without getting in trouble with their PR department.
Yes. Now, does the bandwidth of USB-C, the video bandwidth, allow for significantly higher resolution and frame rate?
Yes, they have certainly future-proofed that. USB-C is fat, man. I mean, it's got not only like huge power, current capabilities, but it's got so much data throughput. I'm not worried about that.
Will they need a special cable so that you can get that low latency?
I don't think so.
It'll just be a standard USB-C cable?
Well, I don't know. I mean, because I do wonder about length. Like, length is the issue. Like, how do you do a long cable without having any degradation?
And we're not just talking about the video signal to the headset. We're also talking about potentially 1 camera or 2 cameras of video data back from the headset bidirectional to the computer. So it could be a fat cable.
Well, still, it'll just be 1. So that'll be good. And thinner, you would hope, than
You would
having
hope.
a bundle of 3 of them.
The port itself, the USB-C, if we're talking about the oval port, is that sturdy enough for VR activity?
Right. I wondered about that too, because those, at least on my MacBook, they just slide out.
Right.
There's no locking mechanism.
Yeah.
I think there's supposed to be, but it just doesn't.
Maybe so some type of latching addition before it plugs. And most computers right now do not have a USB-C port, that type of USB-C connector. So you need to have some type of box that then splits that out into...
So you're thinking there'll still be some kind of a...
breakout box.
Breakout box.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like the current gen Rift, like it already requires USB 3. I wouldn't be surprised if next gen requires USB-C just to be built into the computer. You need a next gen system.
Yeah. Last week we had the first inklings of, Magic Leap video. This is over a live stream and
a release time frame and
summer.
Yeah,
we think. They announced a partnership with AT&T to distribute the Magic Leap, and I think it's going to be one of those by the wire, the internet connect. You know, it'd be like the iPhone, the first iPhone, right? With Singular.
I remember the day.
You have to go get through AT&T and get the internet connection from there and pay a subscription fee. No indication of price. I hope there will be a standalone unit, but we think it's going to be summer time frame, and we got the first visuals.
Was it amazing? Was it robots crashing through my wall?
Was it a whale?
Was it whales and
gym? No. You know, it would look like the kind of AR demo we've seen from a lot of places.
Exactly.
Which is a not fully opaque character.
Well, and the tracking's jittery, and it's small.
And the occlusion wasn't necessarily perfect in terms of putting your hand over it. But it's the early days of that software, too.
But it was doing SLAM. Like, it was detecting where the walls and the surfaces were.
Yes. And you had, more so than HoloLens, which does the floor and the ceiling and some surfaces, you had that character exploring the surface. Yeah. Interacting with
this rock creature would come out of the surface, hurl a boulder at you, and you had to move out of the way.
I think because there's been so much hype and so much buildup for Magic Leap and so much money specifically in that device.
Billions.
People want something that's completely different than what we've expected. And I think we're going to get it's going to be more incremental. Like, wider field of view.
Dude, my fear was, given the investment in this product, that if it came out and it was lackluster, that this would be the sign of the bubble bursting.
Well, lackluster means so many different things. Lackluster is completely related to, it's a relative thing.
Well, yes, but I think the internet at large has all agreed on the definition.
But
of
no one's put it on yet.
Applying to the video that we saw.
Applying to the video for sure.
I'm incredibly surprised though, because we've heard from so many people that have tried on the headset and done demos that have been blown away, some of which who have experience in the sector. So this doesn't match those tales.
So maybe this isn't
it.
What they could do with current tech, but maybe what they want to do and what people have invested in is only capable with larger technology that they can miniaturize in the future.
There's something about this story that doesn't add up to 100 is all.
Right.
Yeah. I think we just need to manage our expectations. And I think the other disappointment is that this application that was shown, this demo, this game thing, yes, we'll see games for Magic Leap, but this is not indicative of a killer app. And a killer app, I don't think is going to come from a game. I think the killer app for Magic Leap is going to be something that it's going to be probably communication.
Well, this is meant for developers. So I hopefully once the developers get it in their hands, we'll see some more interesting applications. I hope they can nail that slam down. I'd like to see that less jittery. I certainly want to try one. I mean, they don't look horrible. They look kind of funny and sci-fi, but they're not big old ugly. It's not wearing a brick on your face. So they got some cool form factor.
Well, it's putting something on your waist too. I mean, it's fully Ready Player One. It looks 80s.
Yeah.
I still can't wait to try one.
Me too.
Yeah.
You guys ever had the desire to ride a water slide with a VR headset on?
Not a single part of me. I mean, there's so much that I find bizarre about this. Why don't you talk about it for a second?
Well, you can do it now. There's one water slide now where you can actually put on a waterproof VR headset. Looks like I'm imagining it's a Gear VR. It has a little camera in the front. Enclosed in a waterproof case. And you can choose your environment and hit the slide and go on down. Now, what's a little frightening is that judging from the videos that they've shown, unlike the roller coaster variants, they don't seem to have the water slide mapped to the world. So when you hit a turn, you don't see it coming.
Well, because you water slide different speeds.
Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Also, why do you need to make the water slide more exciting? Water slides are exciting.
If I took anything away from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, it is that Napoleon would go to a water slide park if he had one day to spend in San Dimas, California.
Raging waters.
And that's exactly right. Water slides are awesome. You don't need this.
Sure. The other thing that strikes me as just really funny about this is that, VR headsets that shift on your face lead to really bad experiences, like nausea, all sorts of problems, right? How is this going to stay in position?
Especially when you don't see the turn coming, you bam, hit your head.
I mean, even slight movements in the headset make a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
So this is ridiculous.
Would you try it?
No.
You wouldn't even try
I want to go down the water slide.
Yeah, I would try it for posterity. I would try it just to report back on how it was. And I've never even done the roller coaster. I still need to do
I want to do the roller coaster one for sure. I'll do that first. That does it for some VR talk. There's some games coming out and games that just came out for VR that we'll be testing and playing, but that's going to have to be after Comic-Con, especially some co-op ones. So I can't wait for those. Stollier for the shorter episode, but I got to get onto a car and get to San Diego.
Onto a car,
and then onto an airplane and get to Comic-Con. But we will be back with another podcast next week. Hey, if you have questions for Kishore, science questions, how can they ask?
Podcast@tested.com or tweet at me at ScienceKish.
At ScienceKish. Any hashtags needed?
No.
No hashtags needed. He'll respond to every single one. And not only is this week Comic-Con, but the following weekend, Jeremy, you're going to be in Pittsburgh for Pinburgh. And we will be at California Extreme, the West Coast pinball and arcade convention.
That's right.
And if you're a fan of the stuff that Jeremy and maybe Sean have done, you might want to show up.
I think you should definitely
You definitely want to show up to California Extreme if you're a fan of anything tested related.
Yeah. Oh, man, so many events coming up. So much stuff. Thank you out there for listening. And do an outro.
Hi there, I didn't see you. This one's from Kerber.
If you have a question, you can send it to podcast@tested.com, and we'll answer it on the air, maybe, or possibly it'll just sit in an email kind of languishing zone and age for a few years before finally it gets deleted.
Bye.